Hello and welcome to Find Your Freedom, a podcast dedicated to helping you truly find freedom in all aspects of life. Join your hosts and their expert guests as they share practical tips and strategies for finding more freedom in your life. It's time to take control of your life and create the future you want. Let's find your freedom. Here are your hosts, Lenny the Boss and Omid Rad Investor.
We are back with another amazing episode of Find Your Freedom. And we have an awesome guest. But before we get into who we're bringing on today, you know that we have a freedom kit for you, absolutely free, because we have to take care of you. We love you. You love us. So it's easily downloadable. It's free. Just go to www.findyourfreedom.com/freedom kit. Once again, www.findyourfreedom.com/freedom kit. Absolutely free, easily downloadable. Now, our next guest here today, he has a really good story. We're going to get into this today. He's a successful entrepreneur. He's a mentor to so many people, an Airbnb specialist, right? He has been in the game for well over 10 years. So, we're going to take a deep dive, into his story, and he's going to tell you some challenges he faced, and really eager to get into his story. So, Mr. Jorge, hey, how are you feeling today, my brother?
I'm feeling good, man. Man, that's a lot of energy to back up. But hey, thanks for having me, guys, on the show. I appreciate the opportunity.
Fantastic. Hey, before we jump into some of your story here, how about you catch the listeners up, if you can, just give us a little bit of background on yourself.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So I've been an entrepreneur since I was 20 years young, 35 now. So 15 years building lots of successful businesses. I started buying real estate back in 2012. Got an 8-figure portfolio, doing some short-term rentals, purchasing, subleasing, management. I got 3 ground-up developments I'm working on right now, mostly all syndication models, and about to start a fund. And yeah, just changing lives. I've helped over 3,000 students. I've been started my coaching company 5 years ago. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Man, that's quite a resume. It's pretty impressive. So I just want to kind of, go back to baby Jorge and kind of like how it all started, because I know you're a big mindset guy, and I think people see the success, but they don't see kind of like the path to success. So maybe you can kind of walk us through a little bit, about like just even how you've even got to the point where you are today.
Yeah, it was definitely, so I was born into a, Mexican immigrant household. Both my parents were born in Mexico. Both of them didn't have any education background. They started working since they could walk. And then they came to this country, of course, in search of a greater opportunity. And both were very entrepreneurial, but everything that they did was illegal. So my dad was in and out of jail most of his life. He was a drug dealer. I actually started selling drugs with my dad when I was 7. And then when I was 10 years old, we were smuggling people into the country. When I was 7, my dad was also an alcoholic like his entire life. So when I was 7, the doctor told him that if he wanted to see his youngest son, Jorgito, grow up, he needed to stop drinking alcohol. And he did, but the damage was too long. So when I was 12, he passed away from alcohol. And then when I was 13, my mom abandoned me. 7th grade, I did it twice because I was just, really going through it. Graduated high school with 4 Fs and 1 D. Dropped out of college. All my teachers said that I would never amount to anything. And, based on all that, like a lot of the friends that I grew up with in junior high ended up pretty much dead, in jail, or like really messed up in drugs. So like, I'm supposed to be here, but like, I'm not supposed to be here, right? Based on a lot of those statistics and my upbringing, I'm really supposed to be like dead, in jail, or really messed up in drugs, like a lot of my friends.
Wow. That's a lot to swallow right there.
Yeah.
Just to unpack just a few things. So, man, so you lost your dad at a very early age.
Yep.
You also mentioned that your mother left, right? When you was also just turned a teenager, 13. So I mean, at that age, like, what are you thinking? What are you doing to sit here and, I guess, stay on the right track, or were you on the right track at 13, moving on up?
Yeah, it definitely wasn't, man. I mean, at the time, my obsession, I have a very addictive personality. So like whatever I get into, like I get all into and super hooked and addictive. And so at the time I was like a skateboarder, and me and my friends would skateboard all day. We would ditch school, we'd smoke weed and eat donuts. Right. And those same
Eat
friends,
donuts, I love it.
like I remember that, they would come into I think we're probably all like similar age here. You guys remember those DARE programs that would come into school?
Yep.
Yeah.
And they would always say that weed was the gateway drug. And everybody was like,
Mhm.
yeah, like, no, it's not. Like, weed is just weed. But it's true. My friends started doing other drugs and like crazy stuff. And then they started like selling it and dealing it. And then they started stealing cars. And it was the gateway drug for them. They started going in a whole other different direction. And I would say that what helped me go into a different path was my 7th grade substitute teacher. His name is Mr. Parcell. And he knew like all the challenges that I was going through. He was a sub like pretty often. And I just remember that one day he came and he got to my eye level, took a knee as I was sitting in my chair. And he said, Jorge, you don't have to be a product of your environment. He says, you don't have to repeat the patterns. He says, you could decide to set a new standard for your younger siblings. You could decide to change your life and like you could change the world. And before he ever told me that, I thought that my life could only be a reflection of the cards that I had been dealt. Like I didn't know that it was possible to like change your life, right? Because the fish doesn't know that it's in the water. Like when I was selling drugs at 7, I genuinely thought all kids sold drugs. I thought that was normal. I thought it was everyone's normal, not just my normal. And so I didn't know that I had the ability. Like I didn't know that I was the architect of my life. I didn't know that I could be born into a certain environment and then change that by changing my environment and by changing my friends. But when Mr. Parcell said that, it's like it triggered this switch. It was like this belief of like, you know what, maybe I can change my life. And I believe that whatever you're looking for is also looking for you. So I just started looking for a better life and I started to attract role models.
So, I love that story. I think you're a good representation of like the one thing, like the book, and how you talk about like, you have this addictive personality. So if you're into something, you go all in. So walk us through kind of like as you're transitioning and now you're like this dance expert. So like talk us how like you became successful in that. Cause I think one thing is how you do one thing is how you do everything. And so kind of walk me through that process as far as like your entrepreneurial kind of journey.
Yeah, so I was going to a community college, was taking a lot of psychology classes, was always fascinated with understanding people, why people are the way they are, body language, all that stuff. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I actually took psychology and hospitality. Those were like my 2 classes. I never thought about the connection. I'm like, oh, wow, I'm kind of in the hospitality business now. But I did fail that class. And almost every class that I took, like I failed, right? Like I went to Cypress College and I went to Orange Coast Community College, and I failed the English. Like English is my first language, even though I still have an accent. Like the crazy part of being a first generation Mexican is that my English sucks and my Spanish sucks.
Oh wow.
You're like
Wow.
me. My mom's Colombian, and right, it's like I was in ESL when I was in elementary.
So I failed like all the basic classes. So I ended up going to like, it's called Coastline Community College. This is where like the dummy people go if you fail regular community college, and that's where I went. But anyway, while I was going to Orange Coast College, I joined the salsa team, and that's where I learned like how to dance salsa. So it was like my second semester. I was like maybe 19, and my salsa partner introduced me to a dance called bachata, which is a sensual partner dance from the Dominican Republic. And I just fell in love with the dance. Again, I got addicted to it, and 3 months later, I'm like, I had just turned 20. I'm teaching bachata in my friend's backyard. I remember I got my BlackBerry phone and I created a group chat, and I invited all my friends, family, and I said, hey guys, I'm starting to teach bachata at my friend Yaneli's house. I had a little stereo with my CD with a album called Aventura, and I'm facing like a brick wall, and I'm teaching bachata for free. And then like a month later, I'm charging $5 and then $7. And then I landed a dance studio. I'm like, man, I'm getting legit. I need to find a dance studio. And then I met my dance partner. Fast forward over the course of like 9 years, I was doing like over $250,000 in like revenue in my early 20s. I had like 8 streams of income, all from the dance business. I was hosting these large conferences with about 2,000 attendees every February and every August. We would sell out the LAX Strip hotels, the Marriott, the Westin, all of them. And we have concerts, workshops, performances, pool parties from 9 a.m. to 5 a.m. I ran a nightclub. I had a choreography company, all that. The challenge is that, I created a business that always needed me to be there for it to work. So whenever I talk about becoming financially free, getting out of the rat race, that was my rat race, was the business that was not really a business. It was a job. I was working 14, 16-hour days, living in airports and hotels, traveling the world, but not getting to really enjoy it. And one of the turning points was in 2012, I had a back surgery in my L5S1. I had a herniated disc, and the doctor said it was a 50-50 chance I'd ever walk again.
Wow.
And that's when I was like, whoa. Like, I remember just having a moment to myself when he told me that, because he said, oh, your surgery's tomorrow at 7 a.m. And I'm sitting there just having like this paradigm shift. I'm like, man, like, I know I'm going to walk. Like, I believe that, but I need to figure out a way to make money without using my body. I need to stop using my body, and I need to start using my mind, and I need to start thinking of passive income. And that's what kind of led me down this path of, buying real estate in 2012 and going all in on that.
Wow, man, you constantly keep blowing me away. All right, I'm just gonna let you know that. So let's catch up on this story. So rough upbringing, a teacher, substitute teacher at that. Kind of change your mindset, right? That's awesome. You built this business, teaching bachata, right? If I pronounce that right?
Yep. Yeah,
Because
bachata.
my wife,
Bachata.
how about this? My wife's Puerto Rican, right? And the first dance move she taught me the dance is that. So I'm gonna challenge you to a dance challenge when I see you.
There you go.
I suck, but I'm still going to challenge you, right? But fast forwarding your story, so you're like got this big business going on. You're traveling the world. I understand that you're saying you're not enjoying, some of the places because you're working, but at the end of the day, you have a business built off of dance, and then a doctor come and kind of drop the Thor hammer on you, right? Like, did you go into some type of depression, or did you go into like what did you do to stay mentally focused from, I have a business that's super successful, that, I'm dancing, and then tomorrow I can't dance anymore. Like, that had to be devastating.
Yeah. One of the things about my personality is I'm like a very grounded person. So unless it's like you're dying tomorrow, like, I'm pretty good. Right? Like, and I think I've also been through so much in my life that it's like, all right, I can handle this. So I just stayed very grounded, and I knew that everything was going to be like, okay. And immediately after my surgery, like 4 hours after my back surgery, I could lift my leg in ways that I couldn't before for years. So I knew the surgery was successful. Like, I got up, I was all dizzy and stuff, but I could lift my leg. I'm like, man, I have no sciatic pain, because I couldn't sit on airplanes, even driving, like sitting for 5 minutes, man, it was like I had to lay down on airplanes, because that's how bad it was.
Wow.
And but yeah, I stayed very grounded, very neutral. Like, I knew that it was honestly like a very spiritual transformation for me, because up until that point, I was very, like, I guess you could say money hungry is the right word. And I would sacrifice my health at all costs to like make money. I don't know if you guys have heard that quote from the Dalai Lama. Let me grab it real quick. See, I still got it here. I've had this quote since I had that surgery, and
Wow.
this exact frame. And it says, the Dalai Lama, when asked what surprised him most about humanity, answered man, because he sacrifices his health in order to make money. Then he sacrifices money to recuperate his health. And then he is so anxious about the future that he does not enjoy the present. The result being that he does not live in the present or the future. He lives as if he is never going to die, and then dies having never really lived. Right?
Wow.
That's powerful.
For me, it was a very spiritual journey, because I had these weird pains that the doctors couldn't explain post-surgery. And I had this dance student that flew from France so I could give her some like private bachata lessons. And she didn't speak English very good, but all she said, it was like snake. And I was like, what? And then she went to explain that I was shedding the old me and transforming into like the new version. And everything with like the back surgery and the pain was really like a spiritual transformation. And and ever since that point, whenever I created vision boards or created goals, like top left-hand corner, everything is about health and then family. And like the last thing is money. Whereas before it was the other way around.
I think that's super powerful. It's you. I think that's a typical journey. Like people are pursuing money, and then you kind of discover things along the way and figure out like what are the priorities. But you see a lot of experts, and they always say like health is wealth, and take care of your health first. And if your body is a well-oiled machine, then everything else kind of plays in. But I know you're also like a mindset guy too, and that's like a big part of kind of like what you do and how you make decisions and run your business. Maybe you can kind of walk us through like the real estate journey. So you get into real estate and how do you discover Airbnb and arbitrage and so the listeners can kind of understand that process.
Yeah, for sure. So I got my first property in 2012, and I knew how to do an FHA loan because right before I dropped out of college, so the transition, right, is I was going to community college. I was in the salsa team, and I was working at Bank of America in 2007. And at the time, I was setting up personal accounts, business checking accounts, which is how I learned about LLCs, corporations, all that. And I was also doing mortgages for the bank. So when people wanted to buy, refi, get a HELOC, I was the guy that would do those. So what's cool is I would sit across these entrepreneurs, and I felt like I had an in-person podcast without knowing that I had a podcast because I was getting mentored just by sitting with entrepreneurs all day. I would only see like mainly business people. Long story short, I knew how to buy a property with an FHA loan, but I didn't know, because of that experience, but I didn't know how to going by the second, third, and the fourth property. So in 2015, I was searching on Facebook, like real estate investing. Les Brown, right? He says, if you don't want, you don't have to be great to get started, but you have to get started to be great. He was hosting a big conference at the downtown LA Convention Center, and it was free. So I got targeted with ads after searching those terms on Facebook. I went to that conference. They were selling everything. They're like, hey, we got a real estate workshop coming up. We got Forex, we got stocks, we got Amazon, we got this, we got mobile homes. I signed up for the Rich Dad Poor Dad 3-day workshop, which was $300. Brought my wife, girlfriend at the time, law enforcement officer back then. And she was like, what are these people going to try and sell us? She was like very, analytical, very protective. We all have one of those. And 3 days later on Sunday, I went home. I grabbed $35,000 cash because my business was cash, and I paid for the mentorship. And I learned everything: flipping, wholesaling, commercial, residential, income properties, property management. Like I took all the classes. It was a 2-year education. And within 18 months from that workshop, my net worth exceeded $1 million. And I was able to buy my beautiful mother her first and dream home because of that. And that's really where my journey began. Fast forward, in 2016, we went to Hawaii on a vacation, and one of my best friends, my best friend's wife booked the property, and I didn't know that she used Airbnb. So that was like the first time I heard it in 2016. And then one of my dance students had 2 duplexes in Fresno, California, that were all 4 units on Airbnb. And she told me that she was making 3.5 times on Airbnb than what she was making from her long-term tenants. And that's when the switch flipped. And I'm like, man, well, I got 4 units that I already owned. And in 2017, I'm like, I could put these 4 units on Airbnb. So they were in different cities here in Southern California. But I launched those first 4 Airbnbs in March of 2017. And I went from making $1,500 a month to $3,500 a month per unit. So I went from $6K to $14K basically overnight. And that's how I got out of the rat race. And I was able to start replacing some of that dance income.
Boom. I love that. Love it. Love it. Love it. Hey, I want to back this story up just a teeny bit because I don't want to glare over this one part. You mentioned that, you went to a conference, right? And you attended the $300 Rich Dad Poor Dad, conference. But this is the part I don't want to just glare over. You said that you joined the program. You spent $35,000, right, to join this program. Now, you invested in yourself. Why was that so important to you to do that? Because there's a lot of people who sit there and see a product for $1,000 and they like, oh my God, I am not doing that. I can go to YouTube. I can, buy this one book or whatever. Like, why did you say, hey, I had to go and invest $35,000 into yourself to see your success?
Absolutely. So the facilitator that was leading the workshop at Rich Dad Poor Dad was a multimillionaire, and he talked about all these strategies that I had never heard about in my 20 something years of my life. And this package that they had, well, first of all, I'm also a believer, like I deserve the best, right? I believe that I deserve the best. My family deserves the best. And I didn't want to like cut any corners. I'm like, I could go for the $12,000 package, but like, what does that say about me? Like, I have the money. Do I want to go for something that's going to be okay, or do I want to go for the best? And I knew that if I wanted to learn and really learn, I needed to find the people who already had the result and outcome that I desired, and I could just go and learn from them. Like, sure, I could do it on my own, but success loves speed, and why not do everything like 5 to 10 years faster? And at the end of the day, I believe that's what coaching, mentorships, podcasts do, right? It's they shave off the years of you getting there. It's like, yeah, you could do it by yourself, but why not get rich faster and enjoy it longer with the people you love?
Success loves speed. I wrote that down. I mean, that's nobody's used that quote before, so I'm really digging that. I think there's a lot of people in the space where you talk to them, kind of like Lenny said, they don't want to spend time in coaching. I'm a big fan of like the Cliff Notes version. Give me the Cliff Notes version. Somebody's already done it. That way they can show me the way, and I can kind of move along my way and move my journey faster. So I'm a big fan of that. So arbitrage. So you kind of talked about, doing it, and I think a lot of people they purchase their first property, they run out of money.
Yep.
What happens? Then what do you do from there? Because it's like,
Yeah,
I'm killing it.
So interesting, right? So I started the Airbnbs in March of 2017, and then like a year and some change later, I started the coaching, because now I'm making six figures. I'm like, hey, I'm going to coach beginners, and so I started the coaching a year later, and 100% of my students were buying property, because I don't teach anything that I haven't mastered myself. So I'm like, hey, I've been buying, I've been doing mortgages, like I understand this whole aspect like the back of my hand. 100% of my students were buying properties. And what started to happen is a lot of my students started to buy properties with FHA loans, and then they started Airbnb in the properties, and some people started doing it like too much. And then me and my mortgage lender was like, we could go to jail for this, right? Like, if we're teaching people how to do mortgage fraud, right? Like this is not going to be a scalable business, right? So for a minute, I thought that my coaching business was going to like just disappear, because that night I just couldn't sleep. I was worried. I was like, man, what's happening? This is not good, And a lot of my students didn't have 10, 15, 20%. Like a lot of these students were making, 25 to like 45K a year, and they had very limited financial resources. And then what changed is I had a student, this single mom with 2 kids out of San Diego, and she had the money to buy a property, but she didn't have the credit. And she was so committed. Like, she paid for the coaching, and she's like, I don't know how you're going to help me, but I know you're going to help me. And I said, I don't know how I'm going to help you, but I'm going to help you. Right. And so she was so committed to becoming financially free and wanting to quit her job so she can spend more time with her kids. I'm like, look, if you join, like, I'm going to find a way to help you. And so I had heard about arbitrage, and I was able to give her, I was like, look, I've never done this myself, but I feel like it's so easy that I understand it enough that I could help you. Long story short, she went and got her first lease in San Diego, and she started making like $2,500 a month in profit. It was like this beautiful a property, like pretty close to the beach. It was new construction. And then she took over the next unit and the next unit. And then I was like, dude, at the time, like I had to replace my 9 to 5, but I hadn't replaced my wife's 9 to 5. And I knew based on my numbers that I was going to need 2 to 4 properties to replace my wife's 9 to 5. And again, I didn't have the finances to go and buy 2 to 4 properties. So then me and my wife went and we launched like 7 subleases in a matter of like 3 months. And then boom, we like replaced her 9 to 5. Now she hasn't, she escaped her rat race and like 5 years ago, quit her law enforcement job. And that's really where the game changed, because once I started teaching arbitrage, everything blew up. Like my portfolio blew up, the coaching business blew up, and I didn't know that there was a way bigger pool of people that could arbitrage that couldn't buy. And so it just skyrocketed, and it just took off. And yeah, it's been that was kind of the transition into that.
Dude, that's awesome. I mean, I'm a I think I often get asked about arbitrage, and kind of like I'm like in your like your original position, where like I kind of have an idea. Like I've talked to, like, I'm friends with a lot of people who do arbitrage, but I've never actually done it before. But I'm actually like in a position where I'm kind of curious, and I do want to test it out. And I know there's a lot of markets. I mean, I'm in SoCal as well.
Yeah.
So I know San Diego's popular, but then there's the regulation thing going on. And so, but
Yeah.
oh, that's interesting. But yeah, if somebody wants to get started, and they want to get their feet wet because they're afraid of the market right now, or maybe they don't want to quickly jump into buying one, but they want to test it out with the arbitrage model. What would you tell them?
Yeah, I would tell them to just stick to like primary markets. Like in my experience, I feel like some of the markets that are struggling the most right now are like secondary and tertiary markets. But some of these more primary markets, like are still doing like really well. Like we still have properties that are making 2,000-3,000 a month in profit that we own or that we sublease or that we manage. So you just got to be more, do additional due diligence on the numbers, of course, on the regulation. But I feel like there's opportunity. You just got to make sure that you know what you're doing.
And I think that makes a lot of sense, right? And that's the reason why they get the coaching, is because, the coaching sit here and one is streamline, things for you. It put things in perspective. You can have the accountability partner that you need. And ultimately you can come back and ask any and every question that you need and just about, get an answer for you. So, all right, man. So you, wow, you have an interesting story, my man. So you teenager had some rough times, built this dance program and traveling over the world. Then your health, got in the way and changed your entire mindset. And now you're at a point where you are coaching students and you are also obviously continuing to build your portfolio. So, with that being said, what's next?
That's a good question. A lot, man. I'm really excited about these multifamily projects. Of course, I'm going to continue to implement Airbnb, but my question, like they say that if you ask better questions, you get better answers. And so one of the better questions I've been asking myself is, how do I scale faster? How do I multiply my portfolio? And, the logical answer is, multifamily. Like I went to a conference a few weeks ago. And I met the Robinsons for the first time in person. I met Rob Bill for the first time in person. And it's like, wow, these guys are doing the same thing. They're all going into multifamily. Like we're going to keep doing Airbnbs, but now with more doors, right? Getting 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 doors under one roof, just because of the economies of scale. And so, like I said, right now we have 3 ground up developments that we're building, and we're in the process of looking at some apartment buildings. And so that's one thing, is just going bigger, better, faster, right? One. The second part of that is utilizing like a syndication or a fund model where we raise, most or all of the capital by bringing passive investors, right? And then 3, of course, that's going to give us a lot of like cost segregation. And for a lot of the listeners, that's in short where you can accelerate depreciation and it could offset other active income. So my goal is to keep buying enough real estate to make all the coaching stuff tax-free, right? And it's cool because I'm in a position where I have to buy real estate or pay taxes. And I hate paying taxes. I don't pay taxes anymore. My 2021 taxes, I actually got a refund on my tax return because of the amount of real estate that I own. And so it's kind of cool. It's like every time I meet with my CPA, it's like, hey, this year you need to buy this much real estate if you want to make your Airbnb profits and your coaching profits tax free. So it's always like this fun little game. And then of course keep growing the coaching and education. With the dance business, at the end of the day, I was always coaching people. So like I've been coaching basically for 15 years. That's always been my passion. That's what, wakes me up every morning. That's something I'll do for the rest of my life. So yeah, coaching, the multifamily stuff, and, just continuing to give back and contribute to the less fortunate while being the best husband, father, and coach I could be.
Boom.
Yeah, I mean, you got so much going on, so it's great. I like the idea of the scaling. We like 2 years ago, or was it 2 or 3 years ago, we went to like the Rod Cleef event in LA.
Oh yeah.
And back then it was like the same idea. I remember we that was always kind of the long-term thing, is try to do the syndications, and the scalability is so much greater. And now you have like so much experience in all parts of different, real estate. And I think it kind of puts like the whole package together. So I think that's awesome. So let's talk about building a coaching program. So
Sure.
how do we, like, let's say somebody like us wants to get started in a coaching program. How do we get started? Because I feel like you're like the coaching expert from like in different fields.
That's so funny. I literally had a meeting. So interestingly enough, right, back in 2020 during the pandemic when you weren't allowed to leave your house, I was like, man, what's going to happen? Because again, I had my Airbnbs, I had the coaching program, and Airbnb was giving 100% refunds to all the guests, right?
Yeah.
And you weren't allowed to leave your house. So I'm like, okay, I think the Airbnb coaching and the Airbnbs, like, they might be dead, because if you can't leave your house, how hard, like, it's not going to work. And so I made a quick pivot and I launched a coaching business in April of 2020 called BTC, not Bitcoin, Breakthrough Transformation Coaching, teaching coaches how to build their own coaching business. And so we're actually about to relaunch that today.
That's
Like
so
right
random.
before this, I had right before this, I had a meeting with my team, and I'm like, all right, we're going to launch our VIP day where like people can spend a whole day with me building out their program. And in addition to that, they're going to get the 90-day group coaching. But so anyways, again, I've always been just passionate about coaching people, helping people become the greatest version of themselves. And I know that the vehicles will change as the world changes, as I change, as I evolve. But at the end of the day, I'm still just coaching and being the messenger and helping people get to where they want to go. But yeah, if somebody wants to start a coaching business, I would say number one, they got to figure out who their avatar is, right? Their ideal client. Who do they want to serve? What are the challenges that those people are experiencing, and what are the ideal outcomes that they want to have, and how does your vehicle get them from pain to solution? And then after that, it's really like now that you have the avatar, you want to start marketing towards that avatar and becoming a magnet to your ideal client by putting out content that resonates with where they are and where they want to go. And that's where you start, putting out reels, have a podcast, have a YouTube, have a lead magnet, start building your email list. Once you start building a following, then you create an offer, or we call it a dramatic demonstration. And so the dramatic demonstration is where you do like a webinar, you do an in-person event, or you do a 5-day challenge. You do something, a dramatic demonstration with a high ticket offer or a continuity model, basically on the back end. Because all those people, let's say you get 100 people on a webinar or on a 5-day challenge, and out of those 100, maybe 40 are like, all right, I want to go to the next level. I want Lenny and Ahmed to teach me. They know you can't transform their lives in 5 days. You could give them an introduction, show them the basics, the fundamentals, to see if it's something they actually want to do. And then after that, you create a coaching program to basically help them get on the path to that financial freedom. So those are just kind of like some of the basics.
Awesome. Giving back and coaching people to changing their lives is one of the things I always, love, right? And also love that other people do it. And, I think one of the biggest things that people get stuck on is really the advertising piece,
Yeah.
right? Which is a big challenge. I guess what tips do you have, and what platforms are you using for your to get over that hump?
Yeah, I mean, man, creating content is probably the number one thing that all entrepreneurs should do. Like, the only reason I'm able to raise millions of dollars of capital is because of my personal brand, right? The only reason we've created, an 8-figure coaching company is because of the content and because of my brand. And even the lifestyle that we have today, like, the reality is, and people can argue about this, and the only people who are going to hate on this are people who don't believe in themselves enough to start a coaching business. But you will always make more money teaching the thing than doing the thing. Like, that's just the truth. And I think it was Jim Rohn. It's like, hey, help people get what they want and you'll get what you want. Right.
Boom.
That's just like when here's the thing, right? If you think about this from, I guess from like a spiritual perspective, right? If I put all this time, energy, and effort to changing my life, that's good, right? It's going to change my life. It's going to impact my family. But if I go and help 1,000 families become financially free, like, do you realize what that karma does, what that energy does? Like, what goes around comes around. How you do anything is how you do everything. When you go and change the energy from helping yourself to helping other people, people don't realize how that multiplies and comes back like in compound interest. And so that's what helps you become the next greatest version of yourself. Go from helping yourself to go and helping other people. So you'll always make more money teaching the thing than doing the thing. It doesn't matter what it is.
So from like a content perspective, what is like a content schedule look like? Like you being in the position you are now.
Yeah. So we have like a podcast a week. We have 2 YouTube channels, 2 YouTube videos a week that are like long form, plus a short every day. We post 3 reels a day on Instagram, TikTok, plus everywhere else, LinkedIn, Twitter, Pinterest, Facebook group, like it gets redistributed everywhere else. And then I also do a lot of Instagram live collaborations, speaking on stages, doing podcasts. So like my number one thing is creating content out of everything else, because everything else funnels out of me creating content. Like I said, raising capital, getting coaching clients, doing JV. I literally have two of the developments I have. People said, "Hey, Jorge, I got this development. It'll make over $1 million of profit. Do you want to partner with me?" Right? Like I didn't find the deal. I'm raising some of the money, not even all the money, but these are like 7-figure exits. And it's all because of the content, right? So that's a little bit about what my content schedule looks like.
Wow,
Gotcha. With your content, like there's a, they say there's a few different kinds you can make, right? You can do entertain, you can motivate, provide value. I guess, is there like a bucket you like to stay in, or do
Yeah,
you
we've
kind
been
of
doing
venture off?
mostly like talking head videos where it's just like here and it's just like short form content. What we're gonna start to implement pretty soon is more of like the motivation, inspirational, like you hear like the sad music and then you see little Jorgito like with a picture like selling drugs and saying like, "Oh, I thought I would always be selling drugs," but then I found, and it takes you kind of through like this movie, right, with like a climax and everything. So a lot more of that content. I'm seeing that content really take off, like the lifestyle videos where telling people is one way of marketing, but the highest level of marketing is showing people, right? So, and personally, I don't like to, put my luxury cars on social media. Like that's just not what I want to promote. I rather promote more like freedom, travel, family, lifestyle, giving back. So just more of that content that actually drives motion. So I think when you pair that up with educational and entertainment and kind of like mix it up, it's like the best of all the worlds.
Yeah,
Awesome.
no, that's great. That's great. No, I'm digging that. I feel like we got to do like another like podcast, like a second part 2 or something at some point. I mean, this was I think the listeners are gonna get like so much out of this. So I think this is great. So we appreciate that. So I guess we're getting to this next segment, which is what does find your freedom mean to you?
That's a good question. I think it means different, something different to everybody else. But I feel like for me, his find your freedom truly means to be able to become the greatest version of myself, which is a constant evolution. It's not a destination, right? It's really a journey. And part of that has to do with like me believing in myself to the point where I do become the greatest version of myself. Like I went to Ed Milet's home in Laguna Beach back in 2018. And Ed Milet has a belief. And that belief is that when he dies, he is going to meet the greatest version of himself. And he said that his goal in life is to become that greatest version of himself. So when he meets that greatest version of himself, they're so identical that you can't tell them apart, right? Like he said that failure is meeting the greatest version of themselves, and you're like 50% of that, right? And so for me, find your freedom is that it's just becoming the greatest version of myself, because when I do, it'll overflow into everyone and everything that I touch.
And you know what? I really, really, really love that. The ending, right? Is saying, "Hey, I'm going to be great, so I can sit here and make other people great and touch so many other lives." And that's that abundance you talked about how all that comes back right around. So, hey, man, a lot of people definitely going to want to get in contact with you. So, how can they get in contact with you, man?
Best thing is Instagram at the THE Jorge Contreras.
All right, give it to him one more time.
Yeah, so it's at THE and then Jorge Contreras. So it's JorgeContreras.
Fantastic.
And make sure it's the verified one, because I got about 2,000 fake accounts out there. Yeah, you got to see the blue check mark. Otherwise, it's not me, and they're going to be sending you some crypto stuff.
Yeah.
Blue check. All right, man. We're coming to the end of the show, and what we like to do is we like to bust some speakers out, right? We like to hurt some eardrums. All right. So this is the boom session. So what we're going to do is I'm going to count to 3, 1, 2, 3, and then all 3 of us is going to say boom as loud as we can. So I'm sitting up for the listeners that can't see this so I can get ready. All right. So let me know. Give me some head nods or something, fellas. Let me know y'all ready.
Ready.
All right. 1, 2, 3. Boom! Awesome. Check this out, man. We just had a fantastic guest. And one of the things that we're leaving off with is health, family, then money. Those 3 things is the way you need to go. So get in contact with him. Believe me, he has the knowledge, the coaching program. He's super awesome, dude. I'm going to hang out with him on Friday. So that's just to let you know he's really super cool. So with that being said, we do have a freedom kit for you. All right. It's absolutely free. All you have to do is go to www.findyourfreedom.com/freedom kit. Once again, find your freedom, REI.com/freedom kit. Easily downloadable, free for you. Now, if you like this episode, we need you to listen and give us a 5-star honest review. All right. With that being said, make sure that you subscribe. Make sure that you take this link to this episode in our show and you share it. Share it with your cousin, your mother, your sister, your brother, your aunt, your uncle. Hey, share it with everyone at work, the people that you like and the people that you don't. Until the next episode of Find Your Freedom, we talk to you soon. Peace.
Thanks for listening to Find Your Freedom. Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. While you're at it, please help us spread the word by leaving a rating and review and sharing the podcast with friends, family, and colleagues. Until next time, get out there and find your freedom.